Hello, and welcome to Insurance Agents Talk Shop. I'm your host, Doug Coombs, Chief Marketing Officer at SIAA. Today's episode is A Singular Focus, Success with Commercial Lines. I'd like to introduce my guests, John Roark and Michael Sutton, who are the principals of Roark Sutton in Springfield, Missouri. If you would like to learn more about John, Michael, or Roark Sutton, after our episode today, please visit roarkandsutton.com. As a full disclosure, Roark and Sutton is a member agency of SIAA and specifically Valley Insurance Agency Alliance. John and Michael, welcome to Insurance Agents Talk Shop.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Glad you could join me. I was hoping we could actually start off by having you both talk a little about your path to owning and running Roark Sutton.
Michael and I both spent 6 years as a captive agent specializing in commercial lines, not really doing any personal lines at that captive agency. And then we finally decided to leave there. Michael left first, and then about a year later, I left. And I think Michael spent 2.5 years at an independent agency, kind of a larger one. I was there about a year and a half, and we kind of had a unique ability to where we could buy our book of business, which is what we ended up choosing to do. And about 3 years ago, actually 3 years ago and 1 month today, we started our agency up. There was 3 of us when we started, Michael and I, and then 1 employee. And then we've been at it pretty much ever since. We specialize in a few different niches, as we'll kind of go over a little bit. But yeah, that's about it. Now we've grown pretty good with a specific niche focus.
So you knew each other and you had kind of a little chemistry going as in terms of working together before you came together for your agency.
Yes. Our wives are good friends. Michael has 2 boys. I have 2 girls that are the exact same ages. And then I went for round 3 and Michael didn't. Michael's been a great friend, a great business partner. And I've known him for a long time. We've worked for the same companies, and it's pretty rare in this world to find friendships that can also be good business partners.
That's excellent. Makes for a much better working environment for sure, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, especially like even, Michael sometimes will come to me and he'll be like, "Hey, I got this idea." And I'll just be like, "That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard." And, and likewise, I'll do the same. So it's nice to keep each other in check, in that regard. And sometimes we have great ideas, and other times, we can each bring each other back to reality.
Excellent. It's great when you can be upfront and honest with each other like that, which is important to the success of your business, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll add one thing on there real quick. We have a client, and when we first got started, we're like, and our client also has a partner, much the same setup that we have, but they've been in business much longer and have been very successful. When we ask them, it seems like a lot of the folks that are on your podcast have partners or these agencies that are starting up. There's usually more than one at times, even if it's just a husband wife. But we were sitting there with our client, and we said, "Well, what was the key? What's the key to you guys having worked together for so long and having all this success? And what's really been kind of the glue that's held this together? With you guys, sometimes you have different opinions." And he just said, "Hey, if one of us doesn't want to do it, we don't do it." And I mean, I think that's not bad advice if you have people listening with partners. And John and I kind of operate with the same MO. If like John said, if I come to him with a bad idea, which happens a lot, I always tell him, "Hey, the key to having a great idea is having a lot of ideas, even though most of them might be bad." But if one of us feels real uncomfortable with something, we don't just forge ahead anyways. We make sure that either we're both in or we're both out. And I think that's helped us tremendously getting to where we've gotten to.
Sure. That makes sense. That's excellent. So let's move on then to the fact that your agency has a singular focus at this point, and that's on commercial lines business. Now, can you explain how that came about? And further, can you talk a bit about specific markets within commercial lines that you target?
Sure, Doug. So John had mentioned the captive commercial carrier that we were both with initially, and that's where we both got started, and we both got trained there. And then they have an excellent training program, and that carrier only does commercial insurance, especially in the state of Missouri. And that also includes some small group and a few large group health, which we don't really pursue anymore from an initial product offering standpoint. But they also pushed a lot of life and disability, which we'll talk about here, I think, down the road in the podcast. But going back to the commercial lines focus, that was their focus. They were only a commercial carrier, and they trained us in a few specific niches, types of businesses. And I'll just rattle off a couple real quick, like contractors from a subcontractor or artisan contractor standpoint, manufacturers, fuel marketers, and wholesale retail type operations like distributors and things like that. So they really, that's where we really got our feet wet, really got educated on the business, building a prospect list, understanding what is important to these types of businesses. Where do other coverages with other companies, where are they typically deficient, and where can they be improved upon? So that's how we really got started down this commercial lines track, and it's served us very well. The complexity in the commercial lines business is really intriguing as well. I mean, there's so many little nuances that you really need to know, especially as accounts get complex. You can really, when you niche in not only just commercial, but I mean, really drill it down. And we kind of like to use the analogy of go an inch wide and a mile deep, as opposed to spreading it out real wide. You can really talk the talk of these business owners within the niches that you've decided to specialize in, and they can pick up pretty quick that you understand what's important to them, what's important to their business, the kind of risk that they run into, and how to make sure that they're covered appropriately. That way, if something really bad happens, they don't have to go tell their employees that the business is in jeopardy because we had an uncovered claim. So that's kind of an overview of how we got into the commercial lines, and we have just stayed there since we got in the business, which is now 11 and a half years for me, and I think 10 and a half for John.
Wow. Okay. So, Michael, you mentioned complexity at a point, and I think that's a concern for a lot of insurance agents who think about getting into commercial lines or doing more with commercial lines, but sometimes worry about the complexity involved with some of those policies. The knowledge that you've gained, you talked about, how you learn by, dipping your toes into certain segments or markets. But in terms of the learnings that you gathered along the way, is it just that? Is it experience, or did you do anything in terms of an education perspective, or training, or anything along that line?
Yeah, the education perspective. I mean, some of it's training. I mean, they kind of they lead you down the path of studying let's take just real quick, just take a contractor, for example, somebody that's an artisan contractor, like an HVAC guy. I mean, in every ISO general liability policy, exclusions, K&L are your product and your work. And, for an artisan contractor, if they have a general liability claim or a claim come in from a job they did, and one of those two exclusions applies, I mean, there's a coverage out there that will build those back in. You got to buy a professional policy for errors and omissions, but a lot of agents don't understand what the exposure is to some of these subcontractors. For instance, if they're doing a $500,000 project at a school, well, I mean, your product and your work is a pretty big number. If something faulty, if the system doesn't perform as it's supposed to, and you got to go back in and redo that can add up really fast. And if you don't have the proper coverage, if you're just relying on your general liability, well, there's been no property damage, no bodily injury, so you're not going to have a payment from your insurance company. You're going to eat that as the contractor. So it's things like that, and it's just studying those policies and understanding how does this language apply to what my client is running into, and a lot of that comes from training. I mean, we didn't just dream up the answers to that on our own. We got trained really well, and the company we sold for had good products for that type of stuff. But it's also doing a lot of home study, a lot of understanding the types of clients that you want to go after, understanding what kind of work are they doing and what are they running into, and what in their policy could be an issue, and what other solutions are out there to pick up these gaps. So that's just a quick example, but a lot of it comes from self-study. And we have a lot of contacts in the industry. So if we come across something we don't necessarily have a lot of experience in, and or just don't have a great solution for, we have several buddies throughout the country that we've just known over the years that we either started at the same carrier we did, or we've met them at training programs and things like that, and just stayed in touch. And oftentimes they'll have experience in it. So we leverage our relationships with other agents and wholesalers and things like that as well to help us pick up the slack sometimes, and even educate us. We've got an underwriter that I'll call sometimes and be like, hey, it's education hour. What are you seeing out there? Just tell me about what you've got going on and what you're seeing in the excess market, because he specializes in big umbrellas over fuel marketers, And so just kind of lean on them, and learn that way as well. But I mean, a lot of it's still self-study and just making sure that you're doing everything you can do to keep your professionalism and your knowledge at the tip of the spear for the segment that you're going to work in.
Very good.
Another thing I'll mention too is failure. We learn a lot by failing, and not even necessarily failure, but one of our niches is petroleum transportation. And we had a client, I think it was on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, rolled a 9,000-gallon trailer upside down, and fuel is just spewing all over the place. And they call us freaking out. We called the insurance carrier, and the insurance carrier said, "Hey, we'll have somebody get back to you within 72 hours." It's like that ain't going to cut it. So those situations, we kind of had to figure out and fly on our own. And then, we've had, probably a dozen rollovers now in the amount of petroleum transporters that we insure. And I can tell you, I feel a lot more comfortable dealing with those now than I did, the very first or second one. Just learning through time has really helped us quite a bit.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Wow. So there, yeah, a lot by learn as you go, so to speak. So let me switch gears for just a minute, because this is really, getting to the heart of the matter, which is I'm wondering, based on the fact that you're handling commercial lines, John, can you tell me, something about your agency in terms of the premium you have, premium volume, and the number of clients? And can you also give listeners a sense of your average policy premium?
Sure. Your timing is actually pretty good, because Michael and I were just reviewing this morning. When we started our agency, we had about roughly probably, I'd say about $3 million in premium, and there was, three of us. Our staff now we've got 8 employees and probably around 15 million in premium. It's taken us 3 years to get there. We have about 100 total clients. We have some clients that have multiple policies, multiple businesses. I consider that one client, but
Sure.
about 40 of those clients are, under $1,000 of revenue, under 10 grand of premium, vacant policy or a monoline auto policy, stuff like that. So we really have about 60 key clients, and roughly the average premium on that is somewhere in the $250,000 to $300,000 premium range. That's the range we really like to focus in. We've kind of noticed there's a big gap. The Arthur J. Gallagher's, Marsh's, Aon's, the $100,000 to $500,000 premium range for them, they just don't get a whole lot of love. Those are not big clients to them. And that area, we really feel like is underserved, and we can give, grade A service to those guys. And that's really the niche focus that we hone in on. And probably one of the hardest things that's been for us is, turning down business. If we get a phone call and it's, "Hey, I want you to shop my 2 autos, and I've called 3 other brokers already," we kind of push that stuff to the side, and we don't even spend the time on it. There's only, 24 hours in a day, and we want to spend that time going after the clients that are in our wheelhouse, in our premium threshold. Uh, a lot of agencies, we've been at bigger agencies before, that have had, I've been in training with some guys that they have $70,000 revenue. Anything under that, they don't get paid. So it can definitely be, we don't institute anything like that in our agency, but, where you spend your time, you can spend your time going after $2,000 premiums or $200,000 premiums. And we try to stick in the latter there.
Understood. So the trade-off really is probably a little bit more complex in terms of the policies you're dealing with, but there are fewer of them because of the higher premium, obviously.
Yeah, it's kind of a trade-off. Yes, they're more complex, but there's also more opportunities, to find holes in their policies to really wow a client. Some of our larger prospects that we'll go after, they may have 40, 50, 60 locations. We'll take pictures of all the locations. We'll have square footage already all broke out for all of them. We'll go in and kind of show where we see deficiencies. We may say, "Hey, you got this building over here that these 2 buildings are the exact same. one of the buildings you've got insured for $20 a square foot, the other one you have $200 a square foot, and really start putting those doubts in the client's mind of, does my current guy really know what he's doing, or does he really care? Those sort of things. We really try to sell an account more so before we even bring the premium dollars in, with just, man, I want to deal with these guys. They know what they're doing. But that sort of stuff, it does take time. It takes a lot of effort, and you have to have a good team. Michael and I definitely could not do this all by ourselves.
Sure. And that makes sense. I'd like to come back around, Michael, to something that John started to comment on regarding personal lines. And so the question here is really, do you round accounts into personal lines when you land a commercial account, or are you truly dedicated to just the commercial business?
Well, I would say that we're truly dedicated to the commercial business. And John gets kind of a kick out of me because I have a stat that I've gone 11 and a half years without writing a homeowner's policy, and I'm doing everything I can not to break that streak. It's just nothing I've ever studied. I've never written it. I don't want to screw it up. So what we'll do, typically with personal lines, we've actually, being part of VIAA, we have a good referral source within that, and we have just a revenue sharing agreement where we just get a little sliver of the pie, but they do an excellent job and have all of the top tier personal lines markets, know the products, know what a client needs, and we will just refer those over. And so far, that has been really a winning combination. And that would be, one benefit of being part of an alliance of some kind. But it allows us to really have somebody that has the expertise in that area, take that off of our shoulders, and not even just from an E&O perspective, but also just doing the right thing for the client, because we know that we don't know that business. And, if somebody has some complex stuff, if they have a high value collector car set, or they have other things, artwork worth value, or they have multiple homes and watercraft and how much umbrella do they need, et cetera. There's just all kinds of details within that specialty, just like we do on the commercial lines, that we just haven't spent the time on. And so, it's just, not only what is the most profitable way to spend our time, but also what is the right thing to get the client taken care of in the highest and best manner. And for us, we've found that this partnership is really the best way to do it. So we send to them and let them run with it. And they really do a tremendous job of getting our clients with the right people. John actually just had one, if he wants to tell the story, where he had a couple. John, you want to jump in on that, because this is a really good example of us just kind of offloading things that we're not specialized in.
Yeah, I think clients really respect too when you're honest with them and you just let them know, hey, this ain't my cup of tea. We had one of our larger clients just bought like a $2.5 million house over in Scottsdale, and just bought a Bentley with it too, and wanted to get coverage all going up for that. And I kind of told him, I said, hey man, I'm your guy if you're going to haul 9,000 gallon bombs down the road. But homeowners in Scottsdale, I don't know the first thing about it. And sent it off at about 9 o'clock in the morning, sent it off to our agency, one of our agency partners. And by like 1 o'clock, I want to say, they had coverage bound for the Bentley, the home. He bought a $10 million umbrella and was just super happy. And that the individual they were dealing with was really knowledgeable. And that's all she does is high net worth individuals. And, the number one thing for us is taking care of the client. That client is a 6-figure revenue client for us. I know we're leaving some money on the table there with a homeowner's policy, but I'm more worried about the 6-figure commercial account than the $2 million homeowner's policy. And as long as we can take care of them and give great service, that's all that really matters.
Okay, so that does make sense. So I'm going to switch gears for a minute then, and because we've kind of talked around this, but I'm wondering how your agency obtains new clients given its commercial focus, and I'm hoping you can address this in a way that includes both how important is your website and social media and the use of video in attracting business, traditional, more honest marketing type of things, or how does that compare to how important referrals are to your agency?
Sure, Doug. I'll jump in on the first part there, and then I'll just pass it over to John. He does a great job with referrals. Let's talk about our website, social media, use of video, the first part of your question there. So we have a website, and we've implemented some videos on there. So John and I sat down and did a few videos that you can find on there where we really address some matters that come up with a lot of the niches that we focus on frequently. That way they can go there and see, oh, they've helped other folks solve this problem or that problem, and they really know kind of what they're talking about. They come across and can speak clearly. Typically, though, we don't get a lot of inbound to our website. It seems like most of the traffic on our website is somebody that we have reached out to, introduced ourselves, said, hey, we specialize in what you do. Here's what we do. Here's how we do it. Then whether it's a voicemail to that person, we send a direct mail piece to that person. We just walk in their door and meet them. A lot of times we get traffic to our website from those types of activities where they're going on there saying, hey, are these guys really who they say they are? Do they really understand my business? Is this really what they specialize in? And it seems like that is typically where it comes from. Social media wise, we really don't do too much there. And a big reason for that is we just don't get a lot of call-in type or walk-in type traffic. Being that we're so niche focused, and going back to the number of accounts that we have, which is really on the overall, if you're talking to somebody that has a personal lines agency or even does a lot of small commercial, we have a fraction of what most other people have from a client count standpoint. So most of our prospects are predetermined. So we have some data lists that we have paid for, and just through being in the industry for so long, we know how to kind of navigate and find within geographic territories the types of businesses that we're looking for, and then we'll go to digging up information on them, find out who their auto liability carrier is, who's their work comp carrier, when does that stuff come up, how many trucks they have, what we can pull some DOT type data too, and learn a lot in regards to a trucking operation. So then what we do from there is reach out and say, hey, we've kind of looked through some of your information. We've talked with our carriers that we have 2 of our 3 carriers that specialize in what you do have never even seen your business. So how'd you get to the carrier that you're currently with? And here's what these carriers do really well. So we really specifically target our prospects ahead of time, and really just go to work on them like that through direct contact. And like I said, mostly, especially now, it's getting better though. I think most people, especially in our geographic area, are more open or very open to people just coming in. There's still a lot of face-to-face interaction. It seems like, even given with the pandemic going on, that wasn't necessarily the case right at the beginning of it, but it has kind of lightened up because. So just walking in the door and introducing ourselves and trying to find the right person to talk to, but having a lot of this information in our back pocket so that if we get a couple of minutes with them, we can really help them understand quickly that we do know what we're talking about, and we're really serious about wanting to go to work for them. So that's how we do a lot of our prospecting, a lot of our lead generation, and that kind of stuff, and how we leverage our website, not necessarily to drive traffic to it, but to use it more as a validation of what we're telling them.
Sure.
And then I'm going to let John talk a little bit more about these referrals, because he does a really good job leveraging relationships and getting referrals.
Okay.
Yeah, on the referral side, Michael and I looked. Probably 90% of our new business last year was referral based, and it's an existing client that either called us up and said, "Hey, you need to call this guy. He's having trouble with his insurance." Those are my favorite because I've already got a pain point there. Or going directly to our existing clients. It's kind of like your competitors. I know our biggest competitors in the insurance industry around here. I know exactly who those guys are. And I can tell you, if one of those guys called me and said, "Hey, you need to take a meeting with XYZ," I'm taking that meeting. Like, it's going to happen. I respect those individuals. And if one of those guys call me and say, "Hey, you need to take a meeting with this guy," I'll take it. And we go into our existing clients. We really try to do a good job, and then ask them, what can we do better? And most of the time, most of those guys are saying, "Hey, you're doing great. Everything's wonderful. Awesome. Hey, do you know so-and-so? We've been trying to get in the door to them and just haven't been able to get anywhere." And it's amazing. A lot of times, they do know them because it's a big competitor of theirs. And sometimes they'll pick up the phone right there and call them and say, "Hey, my insurance guy has been trying to get in. You need to take a meeting with this guy. He's really helped us out. He's saved us in premiums, super knowledgeable," those sort of things. And when that happens and that door is now open, and now it's not a cold call anymore, it's more of a lukewarm call, our closing ratio on those that we actually do get into, our closing ratio on that is 95+%. Very rarely do we get into those situations where we don't end up writing it. And you've got to ask for those referrals. I mean, generally they're not just going to come out of thin air. Sometimes we'll put a list of like 15 accounts that are in that individual's area that we feel like we've really given good service and done a good job for. And just say, hey, do you know any of these guys? And oh, I play golf with this guy on Tuesday every week. Why don't you come down? We'll all play golf together. Those sort of things. Going to dinner with them. The last piece I'd say is we really rely on our clients a lot as mentors. We ask them about their business. We ask them for input on our business, and it's really a kind of a mentor relationship of when we bought our business, bought our book of business, we were going in major debt, and our clients, were the main reason we were able to do this is they all stuck with us. And so asking for referral for those guys, it has been by far the best way for us to grow our business. We are so much more, our hit ratio is so much higher on that than just the regular cold calls.
Gotcha. That sounds huge. It really does. And it's awesome. I just kind of validates what we hear a lot in terms of, how important referrals are. But especially it seems in the line of business that you guys are in the line of insurance business you guys are in. So switching gears a little bit again, if I may, I've noticed that your agency is licensed in multiple states. And as we're talking, it seems like it might be necessary given your commercial focus. But I mean, you were licensed in quite a few states. So how did that come about? Why? And how difficult was it to make it happen?
I'll take that one. We're licensed in about 32 states. It really just came about mostly from referrals. We've got, hey, I've got a buddy that's in Kansas or in Montana or in Texas that is needing help with, XYZ. Or, hey, I sold a trailer to this guy over there, and we were talking about insurance, and he says he feels like he's paying way too much, and kind of get in the door that way. I'm the only licensed producer in all of those states. Everyone in our agency has, a resident license, and then all of the business is written under my producer code. So we only have to pay for licensing in one state. Fee-wise, it can get decently expensive depending on the state. We use a third-party vendor just because it's so difficult to keep track of it, of when the renewal dates are and everything. We pay a third-party vendor that handles all of the renewals, and we just pay a fee for it. There are certain states that are more difficult than others. For example, Florida, we had to get fingerprinted from a police station, send our fingerprints over there. Then you have to get approved by a carrier first before you can actually get licensed in that state. But the carriers generally want to see that you're licensed before they'll give you access. It's a never-ending stream. And then they came back. Florida came back and said, we actually need all of the owners' fingerprints. And so we sent Michael's over there. And then they said, well, no, your fingerprints are expired. So I had to go back again. And some states, no problem, 72 hours, you're licensed individual and agency. Other states, I've heard New York and California can be a bear, which are two states we don't have. But, the rest of them, really not too difficult. And I would highly, once you get over 5 or 6 states, using a third party service for it, just so you don't drop the ball, is money well spent, I would say.
Good advice. Good insight. Thank you for that. Okay. So moving on, having noticed something else about your website is that you promote life insurance. So that's something that SIA has encouraged its member agencies to sell as a way to kind of round out their accounts, et cetera. But how does life insurance fit into your product mix given the commercial lines focus?
Yeah, Doug, this kind of goes back to the training that we got at the captive carrier where we first learned the business. They always had a decent life insurance requirement on top of your commercial requirements. So they always, I think, set about a $40,000 or $50,000 annual target for life insurance premium on top of selling commercial accounts and servicing commercial accounts and that kind of thing. So we really learned a lot about life and disability insurance there. number one. And number two, I mean, that is an absolute need for just about everybody you talk to, that it is very underserved. And where we really come across it a lot working with our commercial clients is more so along the lines of business succession, estate planning, personal needs of the owners and executives at companies. So that's kind of how we take the relationships that we have and really make sure that for their business, especially from a business succession and estate planning standpoint, that if something were to happen to them, how is their business going to continue on and take care of these employees that have been with them for so long that they care a lot about? And so that's how we get mostly most of our life insurance type business comes from that, and then disability as well is another very underutilized or undersold niche of that segment. And I mean, the commissions on life insurance and disability insurance are also good. You're not going to build a renewal book on that, but it just goes back to the bottom line of being an advisor to your client and knowing what kind of issues are they going to come up against that they might not even be thinking about or might not want to think about with life insurance, but can make a huge impact to their family and their business and their employees if that worst case scenario is to happen. So that's how we come across it a lot, and how we really see ourselves as that sets us apart a little bit from some of our other competitors who just want to take care of the work comp and the auto liability and the excess. They don't get too into the professional lines, and they hardly ever get into the personal side of estate planning, business succession. And if you help a client walk through that process and hold their hand, that really we found that just solidifies maybe an already great relationship, in that you care enough to make sure that the people important to them are going to be taken care of when they're gone, and they kind of look at you a little different after that. So that's kind of in a nutshell how we get to that conversation a lot, and also some of the ancillary benefits of just you just become really close with somebody getting through that, and talking to them a lot about how they want things to go on if they're not here, and it's making sure that they're taken care of for everything that they're exposed to.
Sure. Okay. So it definitely sounds like a win-win when you're offering that and going down that path.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to ask, because if you talked about it a little bit before, but how has joining a network benefited Roark Sutton?
Oh yeah, SIA. When we were originally looking, we looked at multiple avenues of cluster models. We looked at other agencies to go to where we could sell our book over to them, and I am personally very, very pleased with what we ended up choosing with SIAA and VIAA. When it comes to carrier contracts, helping get those contracts, our VIAA has been extraordinary in helping set up meetings, whether it just be at events that we're going to be going to. Hey, you really need to talk to these guys and go have lunch or have drinks, and get the process rolling. Market appetite of where to go to, not only the master agency of VIAA, but the other members inside. I've got some of the bigger agencies in Illinois now. I know and have become pretty good friends with, and I'll pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, we got a restaurant chain up in Chicago area. What markets do I need to be sending that to? And they're very, very helpful. When we first started, the discounts that we got for being SIAA members was staggering, especially when it came to our agency management system. We got bids and got all the quotes in and everything. And at the very end, I was like, hey, we're actually members of SIAA. Is there any discounts available for that? And it saved us thousands of dollars, especially at a time when we really needed it for startup costs. Same thing with Zywave and other cost sharing deals. We've got marketing cost sharing where VIA helps pay for some of our marketing aspects. E&O and cyber, our E&O insurance. I've talked to other guys who own agencies, and they're just kind of floored at what our cost on E&O is compared to what theirs is. And we're dealing with pretty risky industries for the most part.
Sure.
Hiring and interview questions, third-party services for hiring. Michael and I have never hired anybody before in our life. We really don't know what we're doing, and they've kind of outlined a really good process that we're just able to kind of plug and play for the hiring and interview side of things. And then the last piece, I mean, our agency partner, VIA, glass tickets to the Blues. If we've got a big prospect or something like that, they've got seats up at the Blues and the Cardinals, and if we call them up, we can get tickets anytime. I mean, it's been a great partnership so far.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. And the components you're talking about in terms of the benefits of being involved with a network, with the alliance, something that folks should understand, that these are the tools and the assistance, if you will, that agents can receive from being part of a network.
Oh yeah, one last thing I'll say. Our fifth largest client that we had was SIA's profit sharing. And this year, I would be very shocked if it wasn't the second or third largest client. I mean, we have one carrier we're going to be getting most likely a six-figure check from in profit sharing, that I don't even think, if we were on our own, not having 3 years of business with that carrier, I don't even know if we would be getting a check at all. And it has definitely worked its way, been helpful for us.
That's awesome. And I just want to make sure everybody understands that I did not set you up for that feedback, but it's very positive feedback and it's very real. So I'm glad you included it in your discussion of joining SIAA and VIAA. So, gentlemen, where does Roark Sutton go from here? And my eyes a little bit on the clock, but I thought maybe you could talk for just a moment about where are you going to go from here?
Sure, Doug. I'll try to be quick. We got to where we are by providing a very high level of care and customer service to a niche group of businesses. That's what we're going to continue to focus on. We don't have any. We talk a lot about where we're going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, and I don't think that our goal is to just bring a bunch of producers in and just see how much business we can throw against the wall. We want to maintain, the first objective is to maintain the level of care of our clients that got us to where we are, that has provided us, as John highlighted very well, the referrals from our customers. That's always one of the biggest compliments, is if you're one of your clients can say, hey, you should be doing business with my guy. But we do want to be able to reach more clients. John and I, as our business has grown, we are a little hamstrung on time sometimes. And so we have an objective this year to bring in a couple producers. We've got one that just started actually yesterday, and we're working on getting him up to speed, getting him educated on some of the niches that we work in, and getting him running down these roads where we've already had success and have good products for clients that need our help. We kind of have a vision of just being a very boutique brokerage that specializes and has a high degree of specialization and knowledge in certain fields that we've kind of predetermined. And that's kind of what we're going to continue doing, and teach other agents to come in and learn how we've got to where we are. And also, if they have a good relationship, or they have a really big interest in a certain niche, we'll teach them how do you find out what's important to those business owners? What kind of problems do they run into on a daily basis? What kind of products do we have that can solve those problems? And here's how you really run down, one or two or three niches and can be very successful in the commercial business. And that's what we're set up for. That's what we have account executives that have a lot of experience in to support these producers. And that's what we're going to continue doing, is just doing the things that have made us successful. And, going back to your personal lines inquiries from earlier and things like that, we actually brought somebody in to do high net worth personal lines and spent a ton of time getting them set up. And then they just had a little bit of a life change and decided to move out of state. And, we kind of went through that and looked at that like, that was a lot of time, and that was going to be a really long road to profitability. So we're just going to stick with what we know. And we found this great outlet where we can send that type of stuff. And so that's what I would kind of say to people is really, going back to that analogy from earlier, go an inch wide and a mile deep, and really dig into what is interesting to you, what can you do and sustain a high degree of profitability, what type of a niche has a good number of prospects, and you have a couple, 3, 4 carriers that have a really good product to solve those clients' needs, and just run down those rabbit holes, as opposed to trying to be everything to everybody.
Right. Okay. And it certainly sounds like what you've been doing has been working really well. I mean, you folks have set up an agency that is enjoying a nice level of success. And it sure sounds like there's a lot of hard work and networking, et cetera, that contributes to it. But it sounds like it's paying off.
It really is. And John, John does a really good job. His focus, especially internally, and I've heard a couple other folks that you've interviewed say a lot of the same thing here. But one of the biggest things about coming over here to work is yeah, it's great if you have some insurance knowledge and we need to be a hard worker. The other thing is you really need to get along really well with everybody. We're very close internally as a group. We often, I think our conference room gets used for lunch more than just about anything, especially right now with no carrier visits and things like that. It's more of a lunchroom, but we enjoy sitting in there and having lunch together and just telling some stories and making each other laugh. And I end up, typically I'm a really good butt to the end of several jokes, which is always entertaining, even to me. But I mean, we really see each other. And John even alluded to this before, just he and I, but everybody that works for us is almost like family to us. And we do a lot of stuff together, from just like spending some time. Sometimes we'll just like, if it's been a heck of a day, about 4 o'clock, it was like, hey, let's just take a break for a minute. We'll just sit around and shoot the bull, for 15 minutes and then kind of get everything closed up. But it just kind of helps decompress. But it also, is a bond there that we all share. So we've done a really great job, and I attest a lot of that to John in getting folks in here who are all of the same mindset. They want to work hard, but they want to play hard too. And the work hard part is take great care of our clients. The play hard part is let's go have some fun sometimes together and be able to just hang out and be friends as well. So especially when you need, if something comes up and you got to be out of town or you got to have somebody pick up the slack for you, that's never a problem around here. Nobody ever says, hey, I'm really sorry, but I need your help with this. There's like, hey, I need help with this. How do we fit this in? And everybody just picks it up and goes. So it's really a great team atmosphere. It's a lot of fun coming to work every day. And really, we love every minute of it.
Excellent. That's what we all hope for when it comes to what we do in terms of work, career, however you want to look at it. And that's great to hear. Unfortunately, we run short on time. I'd like to thank you both for coming on the podcast and sharing with our listeners. And so our guests today have been John Roark and Michael Sutton, principals of Roark Sutton in Springfield, Missouri. Again, John and Michael, thank you very much for joining me today. And thanks to our listeners for joining us on this episode of Insurance Agents Talk Shop. I'm Doug Coombs, Chief Marketing Officer at SIAA. To learn more about SIAA, the largest alliance of independent insurance agencies in the U.S., please visit SIAA.com. Thank you, everyone.